Hey guys, hi, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Steven. So at the end of my last video, I talked a little bit about being owed a DOR and also along with the fact that I was being credited extra hours and all that stuff because that last trip I was on, the last day was a cancellation and they deadheaded me back to Las Vegas, my base, on my day off. And so I was owed a DOR. So I think most airlines must have something like a DOR. It may be called something different. But in my airline, if you're a line holder and you're on a trip and you're supposed to be back in your base or your domicile at the end by midnight of that last day of your pairing, if your trip, because of an unscheduled delay or mechanical, was extended past your day off, past with my airline 2 a.m. into your day off, you're going to be owed a DOR. In terms of reserves, it used to be midnight, but somehow, because there's a gray area in our contract, reserves are also being held to that same 2 a.m. line. It doesn't seem very fair according to what our contract says, but there was a mediator brought in, and that's what they decided to stay with. Hopefully, during the next contract negotiation, that is changed to be much more fair to our reserves. So because this trip forced me to be deadheaded back on my day off last week, I was owed a DOR. When I got back from this trip yesterday, I called crew scheduling and said, "Hi, this is my name and my number. I'd like you to please look at my pairing this last trip and see that I'm owed a DOR. I would like to apply it on the last day of my next pairing." Now, a brief description of my pairing next week. It's supposed to start with a red eye to Boston, a 24-hour layover in Boston, which is the whole reason I bid for this schedule. The third day is a three-leg trip from Boston to Baltimore, Baltimore, Cancun, back to Baltimore. And the last day of the trip is just a nonstop flight from Baltimore to Boston. So what I asked or requested is that my DOR be applied to the last day of that trip, which is that Baltimore to Boston leg. But and I knew sort of this could potentially happen. There was some hesitation on crew scheduling's part to say yes. So he said, "Please, I'm going to put you on hold while I talk to a supervisor about this," because he instantly saw my schedule and knew what the complication was going to be. So get ready. If you're a flight attendant, this will make sense to you. If you're not a flight attendant, this is some of the thinking you're going to have to do when you're a flight attendant. So I knew that if I applied my DOR to the last day of my trip, that they would have to have me back in my base before midnight that night before, because my day off would start at midnight. So that was Sunday. So it would have to start at midnight, my day off, on Sunday. So that would have to mean they'd have to get me back to my base before midnight on Saturday. Saturday is that three-leg long trip from Boston, Baltimore, Baltimore, Cancun, and back to Baltimore. It's blocked exactly at 9 hours, which is our maximum number of hours we can be blocked during any scheduled blocked any trip. Our maximum duty day, scheduled duty day, is 14 hours. Our maximum duty day can be extended to 16 hours if there's weather or mechanical delays. But if they had to get me back to my base by midnight that night, it would be illegal against our contract in all sorts of ways, especially just for block hours, because the day was blocked at already blocked at 9. The flight from Baltimore to Boston was blocked at 5.5 hours. It usually doesn't take that long, but it was blocked at 5.5 hours. So you're looking at a block day of 14.5 hours, which is just not legal at all. So I knew that they would be able to deadhead me back on Saturday at some point. But to do that, they would have to take me off of part of that day. So once again, the day started in Boston. They would have, I assumed, part of me assumed they would have me continue working from Boston to Baltimore and then deadhead me back to Las Vegas. That's what I thought they would do. So I would be back in Las Vegas by the end of that day, leaving me to have my complete DOR on Sunday. But apparently, that didn't make any sense. And so what crew scheduling comes back on the phone and they say, well, with the tone that this isn't going to work or be easy. They tried, I forget the language he used, but first he tried to suggest that I'd be missing out on something special if I didn't work Saturday, which is that 3-leg day. And that, what about using my DOR on the first day of my trip? And what that really would have done was that I would have, they probably would have had to just deadhead me to Boston on day 2. And that means my 24-hour layover in Boston would have been reduced by the flight to Boston on Friday morning. So I said no to that because, and the applying the DOR has to be a mutual agreement between both parties, the flight attendant and crew scheduling. So I didn't want to apply the DOR to the first day because that would mean that I'd have to fly to Boston on day 2, and that would cut deeply into my long layover, which is again the whole reason I took the line, or I bid for that line. And I couldn't take the DOR mid-pairing. It would have ended up doing what ended up happening anyway. So I asked to use it on the last day of the pairing. And I assumed that they would just have me fly as I was scheduled from Boston to Baltimore and then deadhead me from Baltimore. But that's not what happened. What he ended up saying, and again, he used all sorts of language to try to make it seem like I was going to miss out on something, which is kind of their job, because I'm putting them out, kind of. So what he ended up doing was telling me that I'd be missing, with the rearrangement of my schedule, I would be losing out on 0.71 hours of scheduled time. And I'm like, I was fighting that. Is that even legal or not? But you know what? 0.71 hours, I'm fine. I can lose that. So my new pairing is going to be, for that first day, is that red eye to Boston. And then I will be in Boston for 34 and a half hours, which is great. And then on Saturday, about 4, almost 5 o'clock in the evening, I'll be deadheading from Boston back to Las Vegas. And then the fourth day of that pairing is a day off that I've earned because of this last trip. So what was going to be really just a long, exhausting pairing, I've already done twice, is now turned into flying one red eye to Boston, hanging out in Boston for a day and a half, and then going back to Las Vegas on deadhead. Yay, super duper. So I am missing out on 0.71 hours of credit, which is fine with me because I got 8 extra credit hours in this last trip. So no worries for me. I will be missing out on 24 hours of per diem. But again, because I was in this last trip, I was there 24 hours longer than I was anyway. I recouped that loss yesterday on that last trip. So I'm not losing a heck of a lot. And this pairing has suddenly gone from being just a nightmare into a no-brainer. I'm basically working one red eye in the course of 3 days, and I'm getting complete credit for for pretty much the whole trip. So no complaints with me. I'm very happy. Crew scheduling was not willing to do it. They were not unwilling because they legally have to allow this. But they were just kind of seeing if they could make it work with less work on their end. So now what they're going to have to do is find probably a reserve in Las Vegas, deadhead them to Boston to work that Boston, Baltimore, Cancun, Baltimore day, and then fly back to Las Vegas the next day as well. They'll either deadhead them or just make them part of replace me on the crew that was going to be working that trip. Whatever. But they're going to have to probably get a reserve to work the remainder of that trip since I'm starting the first leg, the first day of the pairing. But this is why we have reserves, right? And so this time of year, most reserves are very, very happy to work. It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, so they won't use a ready reserve. What they'll do is they'll contact someone who is on regular house reserve, so that person will know before they have to go out on the trip. So no one's going to be totally put out. It was just a little bit of extra work on the part of crew scheduling. Because the tone they used consistently through the phone call was implying to me, and this is the tone I received, maybe I was wrong, but it seemed like I was trying to them, it seemed like I was trying to pull one over on them or disrespect them somehow. And the tone and the response I was getting, and oh, this is a lot of work, was kind of made me a little mad. So you have to really treat them with respect. They have a very difficult job. Crew scheduling, people hate them. And it's like the IRS, when they're doing their job and no problem, everyone loves them. But when they come after you, it's a problem. But crew scheduling, people typically don't really trust crew scheduling. And there's a reason, because sometimes it just feels that they're out to get you. They're not, but sometimes it feels that way. But I told him, I said, I'm going to try and say this as politely as possible, but I know that it seems like I'm inconveniencing you and that I'm making your day a little harder here, because this phone call lasted 45 minutes. But I just want to let you know, like, this is all coming about because I had to face an aircraft full of people who had to get to the airport 2 hours before their flight, an early morning flight. To get to the airport in a snowstorm, they had to wait in the airport. They had to wait on the aircraft for 3 hours. And to manage an aircraft full of people who are already irritated, sitting on an aircraft for 3 hours, and then to tell them that they had to get off the plane, that their flight was canceled, and they weren't going to Las Vegas right then, to handle that situation and make sure that no one's sick, no one's upset, no one's having a heart attack, managing all of these things as a flight attendant, I said, these are things that you may not be willing to do, but I am willing to do. This is my job. I do it well. It is not an easy job to handle all of these people's expectations and to be treated on the phone with the tone that I'm making your life difficult by just asking you to apply this DOR. I said, it feels disrespectful. I know you're not being disrespectful, but my job is not easy, especially in those circumstances. So I would appreciate some respect both ways with me and you, and that we both respect each other. And I said, I ended the call with, like, I really, really wish that there was a moment or an opportunity for us to switch places. I think the whole world would be an easier place to be around if we all had to sit in someone else's seat and handle their day for a little bit. I think everyone would have a better understanding of the stresses that we each face. Because I vaguely understand the difficulties of being a part of crew scheduling. And it seems like they intellectually might understand what we have to go through as flight attendants, but that phone call could have gone a lot differently. And I tried to say all this with a smile, or at least not to be a total jerk, I should say. I achieved that. I may not have achieved smiling, but it just felt very awkward in just getting something I'm contractually owed and that I really did deserve. So blah, blah, blah. All right, so that is what a DOR is, how I earned it, and how I'm applying it to my next trip. There you go. That was 14 and a half minutes. So that now, for you people who were curious about how Buddy, yes, the cat, handled this 5 days almost. It was almost 5 days without me. He seemed fine. You may remember there was a cat in heat, and he spent 4 or 5 days away from the house, being very distant. He actually hissed at me. He was very, very different. He was not my normal cat. But when I came home and I found him yesterday, he came into the apartment and he was loving as he has ever been, if not more so. Yesterday, he slept with me for a little while in bed, and he was doing that, making biscuits through the blanket on me, which was just the sweetest thing. And he's actually let me hold him. He's not a cuddler typically, but it's been raining here in Las Vegas for the past 2 days, which is very unusual. I keep waiting for my ceiling to leak, but so far so good. But as much as it's been raining and he didn't want to get wet so much, although he's better about getting wet than most cats, he didn't really want to walk around in the puddles. So I picked him up because he really wanted to go outside. And he didn't like it at first, but I went walking around. I live on the second floor of a complex that faces out into some pool areas. And so I went walking around the pool areas upstairs on the second floor, and his tail was swishing and he was purring and he was having a grand time just walking around, I think seeing the world from a different point of view. And he just really enjoyed it. And that was about maybe 15 minutes of walking around. So we really had a nice time. We did that again today at one point. I've left my apartment door open most of the day. Mind you, it's not been above 52 degrees. It's been pretty chilly and it's raining all day. But I've left the door open a little bit because he just wanted to come in and out, in and out. And all he'd do when he'd go out was sit on my welcome mat and just kind of sit there and look. So, but I have a new neighbor. I have two new neighbors. Both of them have been trying to hang pictures on the walls here, and they're cinder blocks. So, oh my God, it's so frustrating. It's like bing, 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 bing. But one of them next door, apparently when he makes phone calls, feels better outside when making those phone calls. And lately he's been yelling at people on the phone. So Buddy's sitting out on my welcome mat. This guy comes out already yelling on the phone. And Buddy doesn't so much as run away. He teleports. He just, whoosh, he's gone. And he didn't come back for like an hour and a half. And it's taken everything I had not to be like short with my neighbor. Like, hey, dude, you just scared the cat, you know? Because most of my neighbors don't care about these cats. They're just stray cats. If anything, they're annoying to most of my neighbors. And they don't know how special Buddy is. Unless he moves, I'm gonna try to end this video by showing you the position he's lying in right now. So I'm gonna end this now. And then see if I can't get over and capture how he's lying, because he's so damn sweet. So if I can capture this, you will see him in a second. If I can't, I'll ask you to fly safe and have a great day. Okay, so hold on one sec. Hello. Oh, I can't get you. Hi. He woke up. But all right. Whoop. He woke up and he fell out of that position he was in. He was lying on his back with his head to the side. All right, so I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Fly safe.